Greetings, lovely citizens from beautiful planet of Thurston. I'm in 4.1 PTU right now, and I want to review one of my favorite creations in the verse, the one and only Reliant Tana. Misk Reliant Tana is combat variant of Reliant series manufactured by Misk. This beautiful ship was created to protect bigger haulers like Hull C. But I have some problems with it, mainly because Reliant series, especially Tana and Corey, don't have too much quantum fuel and hydrogen fuel, so I don't know how this ship can protect bigger hauler, especially if we're talking about longer trips around the verse. But overall, this ship have lot of guns and ton of missiles. So Tana is a missile boat. But first, let's do a quick tour around interior. Okay, here we have very convenient cargo ramp, but to close it, we need to go inside and push this button and then go out. It's not perfect, but it's doable. To open it, you need to find this little prompt and go back. On the right side, we have a decorative fire extinguisher. On the left side, we have this button to close the ramp. Then, on the right side, we have one SCU cargo grid. This is very unusual, but because Reliant Tana don't have any other type of storage, this is pretty handy. I highly recommend to put here one SCU store it all box to have at least some type of storage for your ship to get some loot or other useful items and resources for your space trips. Here we have two beds, operational beds. You can log out without any problems. I test this in 4.0 branch. I just lived on board my ship without any problems every time I was able to log out and log in these two beds. Here we have probably armor locker, but there is no interaction with it. And weapon rack, little bit outdated. Only 3 slots for long arms. Unfortunately, no slots for smaller weapons or but actually we can place here even pistol, which looks silly. And multi-tool here. So you can have this type of set if you want. But you know, only 3 slots for every weapon. And multi-tool. I don't think so that we can place here something like railgun, but I'm not sure. And on the left side we have standard Misk toilet / shower, but without any doors, which is always weird. I don't like these old designs of toilets without any doors. The same cases in Cathy Red or in Drake Herald. But it is what it is. At least we have something like this. Maybe in the future it will be useful, but I really hope Reliant series will get some rework in the future. Here we have placeholder access points for your components. Very tight place. I don't think it will be very useful in the future. Maybe Reliant series get some rework. What I think could be much better idea is just put components in the wings. Wings are big, chunky, so CIG can easily put here lot of components without too much problems with some access points, like in any other fighter, at least small and medium fighter, to be honest. I think it's better idea than cramped here all of these small components, because taking these components out will be pain in the butt. And probably the best part of the interior, the cockpit. Look at this great visibility. This is one of the best cockpits in the game right now. Reliant series have big advantage if we're talking about visibility. So spotting enemies and spotting interesting places on planet surfaces will be easier if you have something like this. MFDs, in my opinion, are okay, are visible, maybe a little bit small, but it's okay. I like it. You need to be aware, if I like something, it's not mean that this thing is great or this thing is perfect. Especially we are talking about Reliant Tana. I love this ship, but this ship is not good. And I will tell you why. Reliant series was never the best fighter in the verse. The biggest downside of this ship are dimensions. This vessel is huge. It's so wide that needs medium hangar, not small hangar like any other light or medium fighter. And this ship is weird because if we're talking about firepower, is similar to other light fighters. It's even described like light fighter. If we're talking about flight performance, is more similar to the medium fighter, which I show you little bit later in this review. But if we're talking about size, is very similar to the heavy fighters. But back in the day when I creating my Zero to Hero series and I was using my Reliant Tana in PU as my second ship, I found Mirai Guardian and I tried to compare the sizes of these two ships. Top section was almost as big as Mirai Guardian, a heavy fighter. This is standard loadout for Misk Tana. We have two Gilroy gimbals with two size 3 guns and two standard gimbals with two size 2 guns. We can easily swap these Gilroy mounts for Toshima turrets to have 6 size 2 guns. And in my opinion, this is another big problem with Reliant series, because back in the day, before 3.23 patch, this ship was very powerful if we're talking about firepower, comparing it to the other ships, of course. Because before 3.23, if you had gimbal mount, your gun was one size smaller than your hard point. So, Reliant Tana had this size 3 guns on Gilroy mounts or has two size 2 on each Toshima turret, but under the wings had only size 1 guns. But for comparison, Saber had only 4 size 2 guns, Poke has only size 1 guns, Atlas series had only size 2 guns, and so on and so forth. So any other fighter, any other ship had smaller guns. Now the sizes was increased, but not if we're talking about Gilroy gimbals and Toshima turrets. So if we're talking about firepower, Reliant Tana is more similar to the smaller light fighters, having only these small weapons on main mounts. On top of everything, if we're talking about PvE experience, hostile ships with turrets have a big buff right now. Turrets are pretty deadly. Turrets was buffed overall because right now we have some type of automatic gimbal system to help aim on targets if you are sitting in the turret. And unfortunately, for me at least, if you are fighting with NPC ship with a turret, you have a very bad day. Because Reliant Tana is very easy to hit. It's a huge target. I tested it quite often in the past. Maybe I test this also today, but it's very easy to be hit in this ship because of sheer size. So overall, this is the biggest problem with this ship. It's too big, not too tanky, because often if ship is big, is also tanky, right? Not in this case. It have only two size 1 shields and not too much HP overall. And even if it's fairly fast and, to be honest, it's also maneuverable, it's not enough to avoid hostile attacks. But hey, Reliant Tana have ton of missiles, right? Am I insane? Isn't this a big advantage for this ship to have so many missiles? I will show you why I don't think that lot of missiles is a big thing in this ship. First, missiles are not working every time, so we can't count on this. Okay, I will load 4 Ignite 2 missiles. Okay, and now let's fire. And as we see, these missiles are not firing in the same time. We need to wait to fire all of these 4 missiles. Maybe it's not a big disadvantage, but if you are flying in any other ship, you can fire much faster all of these missiles, to be honest. What is interesting about missiles, if you have co-pilot, you can fly in your Tana using only your guns, and we can't enter remote turret. So, as we see, we don't have prompt to enter remote turret as a co-pilot. But what we can do is use missiles. So your pilot is flying and shooting with guns, you are flying and shooting with missiles in the same time, which is okay. but I think just taking out 2 Reliants is much better than risking 2 players in one ship. As we see, this is not perfect solution, but it is what it is. At least we have these missiles to use. Now, let's go to ship viewer site and let's look at the stats. Normally I am using aircool.games, but this time I want to use spviewer.eu. As we see, we have a lot of information here. Reliant Tana is also fairly expensive, almost 2 millions in Lorville. In comparison, Atlas Black, which is a great ship for everything, is only little bit more expensive, so maybe better to grind a little bit more, especially right now when you can do contracts for 100,000 and more and buy yourself just better ship. But okay, let's stick to the Misk Reliant Tana. It's expensive for these features we have here. It's not so expensive like some other fighters. For example, Saber, which is much more expensive, but it's dedicated medium and stealth fighter. So what we have here? Fuel. Only 1.3 SCU of quantum fuel, which is bad. This ship meant to be an escort ship for long-range haulers like Hull C. So this is not enough quantum fuel to fly across the verse with your heavy hauler. But overall, I don't think anyone is doing long-range hauling with escort of Reliance, because Reliance is not enough good to escort any ship overall. But you know, it is what it is. Hydrogen fuel, only 7.5 SCU, also not enough. Carrying capacity, only 1 SCU. It's something. Overall, it's only fighter with some interior. And for me, at least, this is very important because I love ships with interiors. I like to use my ship like my home. I like to log out in my ship and don't wasting time for returning to the space station and logging out there. Pilot DPS right now with this standard loadout with Gilroy gimbals and all Badger/Panther repeaters, it's not so high. As we see, let's compare it to the meta light fighter, Aegis Gladius. As we see, only little bit more expensive than Reliant Tana. DPS is pretty similar, maybe a little bit smaller if we're talking about Gladius. But Gladius is tiny, is much faster, much more maneuverable, have better accelerations. Accelerations is important if we're talking about fighters. That's why I'm using right now spviewer.eu. Look at the Reliant Tana, SCM speed 220 and 480 boosted, nav speed 1150 meters per second. Pitch is not bad, 56, yaw is 45, which is mediocre, and roll is 150 degrees per second, which is not pretty good for light fighter, because looking at the components and loadout is something between light and medium fighter, to be honest, but looking for size is something more like heavy fighter. Accelerations, especially strafing, is much weaker than in Gladius, of course, as we see. But look at the Saber, and Saber is pretty big, to be honest, fairly big stealth medium fighter. as we see with standard loadout, have much more DPS than Reliant. Is little bit slower if we're talking about SCM speed, but boosted speed is the same. Pitch, yaw, and roll is, in my opinion, better. Especially roll is better, which is very important for lot of players, but to be honest, if we're flying with Saber, we can also aim using yaw, not only pitch. As we see here, 55-55 and boosted 66-66, which is in my opinion advantage, and of course Aegis Saber is stealthy fighter. And even this fighter have more hydrogen fuel. Even Gladius have more hydrogen fuel, so you can fight longer. I changed loadout right now. We have here 6 Badger repeaters, as we see, because I installed Reliant Toshima turrets. And pilot DPS is only little bit higher than before, but burst DPS is almost 2000. Still less than in Saber, which Saber is not the most impressive fighter if we're talking about firepower. This is only for size 3 guns. And now burst DPS is fairly bigger than in Gladius, because Gladius have only 3 size 3 guns, but it's of course more faster and more maneuverable than any other medium fighter. Let's look at other ships. Aegis Avenger Titan. Very cheap ship, very fast ship, and with standard loadout we have more DPS and more burst DPS, but okay, this is Revenant Gatling, let's switch it to the Rhino Repeater, and as we see, burst DPS is very similar to the Reliant Tana, and sustained DPS is even higher. Avenger Titan is much smaller and much faster. This is interceptor ship. Maneuverability is little bit worse than in Reliant Tana, but roll is much better. If we're talking about acceleration, of course, this is interceptor, so main acceleration is pretty high, and strafe acceleration is very weak because it's of course interceptor, but overall I think Avenger Titan is much better fighter than Reliant Tana, which is very big and very easy to hit and don't have enough DPS to sustain any fight. If we're talking about components, we have here 2 size 1 shields, 2 size 1 coolers, and only 1 size 1 power plant. Just like in Titan. Let's look at Drake Buccaneer. I changed really fast this loadout for all 1000 Werner laser repeaters. And as we see again, this light fighter / interceptor have much more DPS and burst DPS than Reliant Tana. Fuel is fairly the same. If we're talking about acceleration, of course main acceleration is the biggest. Strafing is not so great. Maneuverability is also not so great, but at least we have better roll. But SCM speed is much better than in Reliant series. And overall, Drake Buccaneer is very small. It's not so easy to hit. And at least if we're talking about PvE encounters, I had no problems to destroy big ships like, for example, Caterpillar, which is very tanky and have deadly turrets. I had no problems to destroy this ship using Drake Buccaneer. Every time I tried to destroy something even like Atlas Black with only 1 small turret, I'm talking right now about NPCs, my Misk Reliant Tana was just obliterated by this multi-crew AI-controlled ships, because it's too big. As we see, we have a lot of better options if we're talking about fighters. Esperia Talon will be much better because it's stealth fighters. Maybe don't have very high DPS. Let's put here 2 Rhino repeaters. As we see, sustained and burst DPS is only little bit lower than in Reliant Tana, but this is very stealthy ship with great maneuverability, great roll, much better accelerations overall. The main acceleration is almost like Interceptor, to be honest, and SCM speed, especially boosted, is much higher than in Reliant Tana. Only fuel tanks are weaker, but this is light fighter. What is also very important, I didn't tell you about this before, total health point for Misk Reliant Tana is 14.8 thousand, which is overall not bad for even medium fighter, but this is huge ship, as I mentioned before, and for nose and body we have only 3.5 thousand HP. So couple of missiles and you are done, you are destroyed. This ship is on top of this pretty squishy for a size. You can't tank anything in this ship. And if you have very big ship, you need to have something more tanky to kill your target faster than your target will kill you. And combining low HP, very big size, and low DPS, this ship can't win any fight with player and have very hard time if we're talking about even PvE bounty hunting. Avenger Titan have also not so great HP pool, but at least can avoid hostile attacks because it's very small. Saber is more tankier than Reliant series. It's smaller, it's stealthier, and have bigger DPS. I don't even want to compare Reliant Tana with Anvil F7A or F7C with top turret and nose guns, because DPS is absurd in this case. Even using something like Mustang Alpha in PvE encounters, maybe we don't have too much DPS and HP as well, but at least Mustang is very small, have great maneuverability, very good maneuverability, very good accelerations, and it's faster than Reliant series, and it's much cheaper, and it's a basic starter ship, to be honest. So because Reliant Tana is not enough to take out medium target like Cutlass Black or Valkyrie, especially Valkyrie with ton of turrets, we need to stick to the smaller targets. And you can do the same thing using Mustang Alpha, which is much cheaper, but it has not so much utility, so maybe let's stick to utility. Reliant Tana can be your daily driver. You can slap here box for your items. You can log out in this beds without too much problems. You can immerse yourself using this gun racks. I've done this before and it was fun because I love style of this ship. This is very beautiful vessel for me and gives me Star Wars vibe. But even if we're talking about utility, we have much better options even across very cheap starter ships. For example, Origin 315p, great interior, 12 SCU of cargo, So we can do even entry-level polling contracts in this ship. This ship can fight. You can do entry-level bounty hunter contracts in this ship, just like in Reliant series. It's much faster, it's stealthier, and on top of this, it's cheaper and have bigger fuel tanks. So Origin 315p, if you like this style of Origin, I don't like it, but it's only my opinion. But still, Origin 315p is much better choice than Reliant Tana, even with less DPS. So let's imagine you have about 2 millions in game and you want to buy yourself 2 ships, because as we know, a Misk Reliant Tana is about 2 millions to buy in Lorville. So let's choose, for example, Anvil C8R Pisces Rescue. 500,000 price. It's relatively fast, maneuverable, don't have too much HP or shield, but still, body HP is higher than in Tana. So this is a little bit ridiculous. Pisces can tank more hits than Reliant Tana. We have much more quantum fuel here, but not enough hydrogen fuel, in my opinion. But still, this is medical ship. This is great thing to do some bunkers, some FPS combat, even in Pyro, because Pisces can be very stealthy if you have a good loadout. It's tiny, it's useful, it's cheap, it's great choice. So we have about 1.4 millions to spend for another ship, and I will stick to the Titan. We spent less than 2 millions. Titan is better if we're talking about fighting, is faster, have 8 SU of cargo grid, so you can do some of entry-level polling contract using Avenger Titan, but still this is another playstyle you can try, and on top of this you can do entry-level bounty contracts in Avenger Titan, and if you are good enough, you can do even MRTs in this ship and take some loot from defeated enemies inside. So this is great set, C8R plus Avenger Titan, and if you want to have more dedicated fighter with more firepower, to do even bigger contracts or other type of missions. Maybe you can grind a little bit more and buy yourself Drake Buccaneer for 1.6 millions, available also in Pyro, which have huge firepower. Let's look at this. Previously, I tried this ship to take out hostile cargo haulers in one of the previous events. I slap here attritions and 2 Ardor-free salvaged repeaters, which I have on my account. But if you don't have, you can also slap here size 3 attritions. And as we see, very nice DPS and burst DPS, good enough to kill even Caterpillar without too much problems. Okay, now let's test this ship. Let's do some fighting. I have very basic bounty hunter mission. As I mentioned before, Tana is fairly fast. We can exit atmosphere pretty fast in my opinion. It's not big deal for this ship, and we will see each other when I find my targets. Okay, here we go. Let's go to Hairstone Cave. Okay, it's about 20 kilometers. Prospector. And this is my target. Okay, let's take out first this Mustang Alpha. As we see, missiles didn't work well. Okay, target is destroyed. Now Prospector. Target destroyed. Of course, Prospector is no match for almost any starter ship. So Reliant is also good enough. To be honest, I enjoy flying in this ship. It have something, you know. It have this vibe, and flight model is fun to use. So still, you can use this ship if you really like, but it's not the best choice in the verse. I really hope one day Reliant series will have proper rework. But there is one thing CIG can do to drag at least a little bit this type of ships towards the meta, and I am returning to the topic related to 3.23 gun size increase. Just increase size of the guns on the Gilroy mounts and on Toshima turrets. Having, for example, 4 size 3 guns and 2 size 2s in Reliant Tana, which is dedicated fighter ship, in my opinion is not big deal. It's still not so much than, for example, Hornet, and looking at size of this ship and lack of shield HP and hull HP, I think it's a fair choice to do. So please tell me in the comment, what do you think about Reliant Tana? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you use it? And if you like my videos, please consider subscribing. It will help me a lot. And if you want to become fuel supplier to this channel, please check out pinned comment. That's all for today. As always, thanks for watching, have a great day, and bye bye.